Hi, my name is Leah Richmond Rakerd. I'm a postdoctoral fellow in the Department of Psychology and Neuroscience at Duke University and with the Carolina Consortium on Human Development at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Today I'm going to provide a brief overview of a paper that my colleagues and I recently published in the Journal of Child Psychology and Psychiatry titled "A Polygenic Score for Age at First Birth Predicts Disinhibition." In 2016, a genome-wide association study was published in which the authors identified molecular genetic associations with age at first birth, or the age at which someone has their first child. The purpose of our study was to clarify the meaning of these molecular genetic discoveries. It's possible that they capture the biological underpinnings of fertility, but we thought that they might also capture the psychological traits and behaviors that go along with being a young parent. So in this paper, we tested the hypothesis that molecular genetic influences on age at first birth, as measured by a polygenic score, would be associated with disinhibition across the lifespan. We developed this hypothesis based on multiple lines of research that have linked early pregnancy with disinhibitory behavior. Polygenic scores are derived from genome-wide association studies, and they aggregate millions of variants across the genome into a score that captures a person's position on a continuum of genetic liability to a particular trait. We derived a polygenic score for age at first birth from the genome-wide association study that I mentioned previously. We tested the hypothesis that this polygenic score would predict disinhibition in two independent birth cohorts that together totaled about 3,000 participants. These were the environmental risk, or E-risk, longitudinal twin study, a UK cohort of twins followed to young adulthood, and the Dunedin longitudinal study, a New Zealand cohort of children followed to midlife. We assessed a range of disinhibitory outcomes in both cohorts. We measured participants' self-control in childhood, measured their risk for externalizing psychopathology, obtained official police records of their criminal offending, made diagnoses of substance dependence, and obtained informant reports of their disinhibitory problems, and measured their number of lifetime sexual partners. Importantly, these outcomes were assessed across different developmental periods and using different methods, which allowed us to test the robustness of polygenic score associations. We found that in both cohorts, participants with lower polygenic scores, so individuals at greater genetic risk for having a child at an early age, had poor self-control in childhood, were at greater risk for externalizing psychopathology, were more likely to have an official police record of a crime, were more likely to have a substance dependence diagnosis, and had more lifetime sexual partners. It's important to note that the effect sizes for these associations were modest, so the genetic score explained a very small amount of the variance in the outcomes that we studied, but the associations were robust across replication. We also found that childhood self-control partly mediated associations between the polygenic score and reproductive behaviors, including the ages at which individuals first had sexual intercourse, first became pregnant, and had their first child. However, the polygenic score was not linked to accelerated puberty. Taken together, these findings suggest that associations with the score are not just about reproductive biology. The age at first birth score also appears to capture the disinhibitory traits and behaviors that go along with early parenthood. And this indicates that age at first birth could be a useful proxy phenotype for researchers who are interested in the genetic architecture of disinhibition. This research was conducted in collaboration with colleagues at Duke University, King's College London, Columbia University, and the University of Otago. I'd also like to acknowledge the funders that supported this study. These include the National Institute on Aging, the National Institute of Child Health and Human Development, the UK Medical Research Council, the Jacobs Foundation, and the Abiel Foundation. So thanks very much for watching this video abstract. If you'd like to read the full paper, it's now available open access at the Journal of Child Psychology and Psychiatry's website.